Hi everyone. I did just want to make a quick comment on how much I really love this series. I feel like it's given me such a more rich context of the Bible, and sometimes when I'm doing a Bible study, a lot of times actually on another topic, I'll remember something that I've learned in Genesis so far because, we're going through this together. And also, these videos are a lot more, not more fun, but I enjoy filming them because I really don't edit them much, if at all. A lot of these videos haven't really been edited much except, to add, music or intro or outro or whatever. But as far as the context of the video, I feel like we're like close friends and we're all going through this together, and I don't really edit it. So it's much more relaxed and I really enjoy that. So I don't know. I just wanted to share. So Genesis 35, Jacob returns to Bethel. I feel like Jacob returning to Bethel is kind of like Jacob returns to God, right? In verse 1, if you remember last chapter, Jacob's family they're in a place of hurt. It's so sad. Go back and check that video out if you haven't yet and read Genesis 34. So God instructed Jacob to return to Bethel. And it says, the place when he was fleeing from Esau. Verse 2. Jacob instructed his household to get rid of foreign gods. He said, purify yourselves and change your clothes. And then I put, maybe Jacob was tired of their worldly ways and ready for a change. And if you remember when Jacob's wife, Rachel, when she first was leaving Laban's house, when they were first fleeing, I can't remember which chapter of Genesis that is. I'll put it on the screen now. But when they were fleeing, she took one of her father's gods, and Jacob didn't even know. And she lied to her father. Her father was looking for the god, and she lied and she said, she sat on it to hide it. And she said, I can't move because I'm on my period. So, I have to sit here. But Jacob didn't know she took one of her father's gods. And that just kind of reminded me of that. Maybe, that negative influence of false idols and false gods continued because perhaps Jacob wasn't, the greatest demonstration of God and for his household to follow. Clearly his household didn't really follow God in all the ways that they could have or should have. And so he told them, it's time for a change. He was probably, at the end of his rope. He was ready for his family to change and to turn back to God. And God is always there waiting. We can never get to a point where God is like, nope, you took way too long to change. It's too late. He's always there willing. As long as we're living and breathing, we can always change and turn our face back to him, repent of our old ways, and try to truly change for him. So verse 3, and then it said, and then he came to Bethel. Jacob wanted this journey to be different. He realized that God stayed with him wherever he went, through the good and through the bad. And that just segued right into what I just said. Verse 4, they gave Jacob all the gods that they had and rings in their ears. And I wrote, the rings in their ears probably symbolize something carnal. There are some things in the Bible that are forbidden, but we need to remember looking at the context of the people of that time. So perhaps, today we have rings in our earrings on, most people wear earrings, but that doesn't mean that, that earring is symbolizing, a certain god, or we're worshiping whatever idol, and that's how we represent it through wearing earrings. So I imagine that that's probably significant in this time period because he told them to get the rings out of their ears. I don't want to confuse you. I don't want you to feel like you can't wear earrings anymore. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that has something to do with something carnal. Maybe I'll do some more research on that. But, and I mentioned, remember, Rachel took a god from her father Laban, and we already talked about that. Verse 5, God protected them on their way, so God was with them on their journey. Verses 6 through 7, Jacob returned to Bethel. Oh, and you know what I wanted to mention? I'm sorry, I'm jumping all over the place. With verse 5, I think it said, he made sure that even though they caused a huge scene and Jacob's sons slaughtered an entire city, they were, Jacob was nervous that other surrounding towns would attack them. God protected them. Verses 6 through 7, Jacob returned to Bethel. In verse 8, Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died. And Rebecca is Jacob's mom, let's remember. And I don't understand the significance of that. I don't think Deborah was mentioned again, at least this Deborah, in the Bible or before this. I'm not really sure what that means. If you do know, please let me know. I think the Bible doesn't specify when Rebecca dies, and so maybe they are entering that in there so that we know that maybe Rebecca died around the same time. I don't know. I'm just guessing. So verses 9 through 10. God appears to Jacob and blessed him. Jacob is just someone who's just getting blessed left and right. God changed his name to Israel. And then I also wrote, why did God change names? That's another question I'm really not sure of. If you know the answer, please let me know in the comments. But I think it's interesting that God changes names. He changed Sarai to Sarah, Abram to Abraham, and now we're seeing Jacob to Israel. Maybe it's a change in their life. Maybe, God is about to do something significant in their life, so he changes their name. Maybe that's what it is. Verses 11 through 13, many will descend from Jacob, and that's what God promised him. Verses 14 through 15, Jacob set up a stone pillar at the place where God had spoke to him and poured a drink offering in oil. So he sacrificed to God. He was grateful. Sometimes we get to a place where we get comfortable with God, I guess, in a sense, and we forget that, we need to try to give back to God. And I say that in a sense where, I kind of think, what can I do for the kingdom today? How can I live my life in a way that is showing God honor and praise? And that's what Jacob is doing. He's, giving an offering, and he's giving thanks to God. And then verses 16 through 19, really sad. Rachel dies in childbirth on her way to Bethlehem. And she named the child Ben-Ani, I think. And Jacob changed his name to Benjamin. And it's so sad because if you remember, Rachel and Leah were battling pretty much with the kids. One was wanting to have more children than the other, and Rachel couldn't have children. And now Rachel dies in childbirth. It's kind of a little bit ironic and also really sad. So Rachel's tomb had a pillar set up from Jacob, and the word said that it's still there today. And I love when the word puts things like this because it's true, and I would like to do research and see, where Rachel's where that pillar has been set up, and if, people have found it, or researchers, what have you. So I think that's so interesting. Verse 21, Jacob was referred to as Israel. And I thought this was so interesting. Sorry, I keep saying the word interesting so many times. But Jacob, in this one section of passage, he was referred to as Israel. And then after this, some verses after this, he was referred to as Jacob. And I just wondered, what is the significance of that? Again, I don't know. If you do know, again, please let me know. And then his son Reuben slept with his concubine Bilhah. And remember, Jacob had children with Bilhah. So Reuben essentially slept with one of his brother's moms. And so you can see that a lot of, and Reuben was Jacob's first son, I believe. A lot of Jacob's family, they had just gone astray from the Lord. And that's still evident here. And I made a little, I made a little family tree, if you will. And so Jacob and Leah had Reuben, which is Jacob's oldest son, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. Jacob and Rachel had Joseph and Benjamin. Jacob and Bilhah, which was Rachel's servant, had Dan and Naphtali. And Jacob and Zilpah, which was Leah's servant, had Gad and Asher. And I like to make little flowcharts like this. I wish I did a little bit more creatively and visually appealing. If you made one, I would love to see it. Post it on Instagram or send it to me, DM me on Instagram. I would love to see it, and maybe I'll redo mine. I need some inspiration sometimes. But this just helps to kind of put things into perspective. So Reuben is the oldest. Verses 27 through 29. Jacob goes to see his father Isaac. And Isaac dies at the age of 108. Esau and Jacob bury him. And I think it's so sad that Jacob he spent many years making a lot of mistakes and not really getting to, I guess, spend time with his parents. He was away from home for a long time. He ran away because he stole Esau's blessing. And because of that, he went to see his father, but it didn't say, Isaac was happy to see Jacob and they reunited. It just said that he went to go see his father, and then the boys bury him. So I don't know, it's really sad. There was no mention of Rebecca at all. And I wrote, did Rebecca die? And Jacob spent a lot of time away. And I tried to look up and Google and see, if there's any scripture pertaining to Rebecca's death, and I don't think that there is. And so that's why I guess they added in that verse with Deborah. I don't know. Again, if you know, let me know. But yeah, I mean, it was bittersweet. But we get to continue on and see what's going on with Jacob's family, or rather Esau's family in Genesis 36. Let me know what you thought, what you learned. I'd love to hear your feedback. It makes it a lot more interesting, and I learned from it too. Thank you so much for watching. Of course, I post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Friday being the Study the Whole Bible with Me series. Subscribe. It helps to support my channel, and like this video if you liked it. And I will talk to you next time. Bye.